My girlfriend, the one I thought I was going to marry, the one I spent 2 years building a future with, lied to me about everything. Not just little white lies. I'm talking about a deep systemic deception that spanned our entire relationship. She pretended to be poor, struggled with rent, ate ramen, and worried about every single bill, all while secretly being the heiress to a multi-million-dollar fortune. And the craziest part? She did it all for love, or so she claimed. Was I wrong for ending it? Tell me if you would have done the same thing. It all started so innocently, or so I believed at the time. I met Sarah at a local coffee shop. I was a barista there, working my way through community college, trying to save up enough to transfer to a 4-year university. She was a regular, always ordering the same black coffee, always with her nose in a worn-out paperback, and always looking a little tired, like she was burning the candle at both ends. I was instantly drawn to her quiet intensity, her seemingly humble demeanor, and the way her eyes would crinkle when she smiled. She never dressed fancy, just jeans and t-shirts, often with a slight stain or a faded look that suggested they'd seen better days. She told me she was a freelance graphic designer, struggling to get clients, and living paycheck to paycheck just like me. I felt an immediate connection, a shared understanding of the grind, the struggle, the constant worry about making ends meet. It felt real, authentic. We started dating, and everything felt perfect. Our dates were simple. Walks in the park, cooking cheap meals together at my tiny apartment, movie nights with rented DVDs and popcorn. We'd talk for hours about our dreams, our anxieties, our hopes for a better future. She'd complain about her landlord, about clients who wouldn't pay on time, about the constant pressure of trying to build a career from scratch. I commiserated, offering what little advice I had, sharing my own struggles with tuition fees and the endless shifts at the coffee shop. We were a team, or so I thought, navigating the choppy waters of early adulthood together. We bonded over our mutual poverty, finding humor in our shared struggles and comfort in the fact that we were both working hard for everything we had. She even helped me study for my exams, meticulously going over notes with me, staying up late to quiz me on concepts. She was smart, incredibly intelligent, and always seemed to know a little bit about everything, which I attributed to her being well-read. I admired her resilience, her unwavering optimism despite the financial hardships she faced. I remember one time, my car broke down, and I was panicking about the repair costs. She sat with me, offering moral support, even suggesting we try to fix it ourselves with a YouTube tutorial, a ridiculous idea given our complete lack of mechanical skills, but her willingness to try meant the world to me. She was always there, a steady presence, a comforting hand. Our relationship deepened. We moved in together after a year, pooling our meager resources to afford a slightly larger apartment. It was still a modest place, but it was ours. We furnished it with hand-me-downs and thrift store finds, painting the walls ourselves, making it feel like a home. Every shared meal, every bill paid on time, felt like a victory. We celebrated small successes like getting a new client or an extra shift at work. Then came the family emergencies. She'd disappear for a few days, always claiming a sick aunt or a distant cousin needed her help. She'd come back looking refreshed, wearing new, expensive-looking clothes that she'd explain away as gifts from said relatives, always with a vague story about helping out on a farm or taking care of sick children. My alarm bells started ringing when she accidentally left a designer scarf in the apartment. A scarf she claimed was a gift, but whose brand tag I recognized from a magazine ad. It was worth more than a month's rent. When I asked her about it, she got defensive, insisting it was a knockoff, a cheap imitation from a street vendor. The defensiveness, the sudden anger, was unlike her. It unsettled me, but I didn't push it. I loved her, and I wanted to believe her. The final unraveling happened a few weeks later. My university organized a big fundraising gala, and as a student ambassador, I was required to attend. I mentioned it to Sarah, explaining it was a black tie event, and I was worried about what to wear. She looked excited, a little too excited, offering to help me find an outfit. We went to a few thrift stores, laughing about how ridiculous we'd look trying to find formal wear on a budget. But then she suggested we go to a high-end boutique, just to look, she said. I was hesitant. knowing we couldn't afford anything there, but she insisted. We walked in, and the sales associates immediately gravitated towards her, calling her Miss Sarah, and offering her champagne. She dismissed them with a practiced ease, telling them she was just browsing. My stomach was churning. This wasn't normal. Later that week, as I was getting ready for the gala, she helped me tie my tie. She was unusually quiet, a strange nervousness in her eyes. I could feel her hesitating, as if she had something to say. As we were about to leave, she stopped me. "There's something I need to tell you," she began, her voice barely a whisper. My heart sank. I knew in that moment that something was terribly wrong. She confessed everything. Her freelance graphic design was a hobby. Her struggles were a charade. Her poor life was a meticulously crafted lie. She was Sarah Kensington, heiress to the Kensington Media Group, one of the largest media conglomerates in the country. Her apartment was a small studio she rented to maintain the facade, while her real home was a sprawling estate in the most exclusive part of town. All those family emergencies were trips to exotic locations, luxury retreats, or simply spending time with her real family. She even had a trust fund that gave her more money than I could ever dream of making in a lifetime. She started crying, saying she had fallen in love with me, the real me, not the version of her that came with a silver spoon. She said she was tired of people only being interested in her money, her family name. She wanted someone to love her for who she was, someone who saw beyond her wealth. So she created this persona, this poor Sarah, to find genuine love. She swore she was going to tell me, that she had been planning to reveal the truth, but she was scared of losing me. She presented it as an act of love, a desperate attempt to find a connection that wasn't tainted by her wealth. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have forgiven her? Would you have walked away? I was completely blindsided. My entire perception of our relationship shattered into a million pieces. I stood there, numb, listening to her pleas, her tearful apologies. Every shared laugh, every struggle, every intimate moment felt tainted, a cruel mockery of my genuine emotions. I looked around our modest apartment, at the thrift store furniture, the worn-out books, the cheap ramen noodles in the cupboard, and suddenly, it all felt like a stage prop in her elaborate play. The resentment boiled within me, hot and bitter. It wasn't just the lie itself, it was the sheer audacity of it, the calculated deception that had permeated every aspect of our lives. She had watched me stress about bills, about tuition, about putting food on the table, knowing all along that she could have solved all my problems with a snap of her fingers. She had let me believe we were equals, struggling together, when in reality, she was living a life of unimaginable privilege, simply slumming it for love. I finally found my voice, a hollow whisper. Everything? Everything was a lie. She nodded, her face streaked with tears. Not my feelings for you. Never my feelings for you. Those were real always. How could you do this, Sarah? I asked, the words heavy with betrayal. How could you watch me struggle, genuinely struggle, and not say anything? How could you let me think we were building a life together, when you had a whole other life, a real life, hidden from me? She tried to touch my arm, but I recoiled. I was scared, she whimpered. I was so scared you'd leave me if you knew the truth. Everyone always does. They only see the money, the name. I just wanted someone to see me. Her explanation, her desperate plea for understanding, fell on deaf ears. The pain of the betrayal was too overwhelming. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw a stranger. The Sarah I loved, the Sarah I thought I knew didn't exist. She was a carefully constructed fiction, a character in her own twisted romantic comedy. I thought of all the times I had confided in her about my fears, my insecurities, my deepest anxieties about my financial future, and she had just listened, pretending to understand, pretending to be in the same boat. It was a cruel, cruel joke. I can't do this, I said, my voice cracking. I can't be with someone who could lie to me so completely for so long. This isn't love, Sarah. This is manipulation. This is you playing a game with my life, with my emotions. She pleaded, she begged, she offered to prove her love, to give me anything I wanted, to even give away all her money if that's what it took. But it wasn't about the money. It was about the trust, the foundation of our entire relationship, which had been shattered beyond repair. How could I ever trust anything she said again? How could I ever be sure that her feelings were genuine, and not just another part of her elaborate charade? I asked her to leave. She resisted, but I was firm. I told her I needed space, time to process. She eventually packed a small bag, tears streaming down her face, and walked out of the apartment we had built together, leaving behind the ghost of a shared life that had never truly existed. The aftermath was a blur of raw emotion. I quit my job at the coffee shop, unable to face the thought of seeing her walk in again. I moved out of the apartment, unable to stand being in a space that was so filled with the echoes of her lies. I felt foolish, naive, like a pawn in someone else's story. It took months, maybe even a year, for the anger and betrayal to subside, replaced by a dull ache of sadness for what I thought we had. I eventually transferred to the 4-year university, thanks to a scholarship I had been working towards long before Sarah came into my life. I focused on my studies, on building a real future for myself, one based on honesty and hard work. I never saw Sarah again, though I occasionally saw her name in the society pages or in business articles, always with a photo of her looking effortlessly elegant, surrounded by the trappings of her real life. I sometimes wondered if she ever truly regretted what she did, or if it was just another calculated risk she took, one that didn't pay off the way she intended. What I learned from that experience is the importance of authenticity, of being true to yourself and to those you claim to love. You can't build a genuine connection on a foundation of lies, no matter how noble you believe your intentions to be. It might seem romantic in a movie, but in real life it's just heartbreaking. So like this video if you were on my side. Subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Would you have forgiven her? Would you have stayed? Let me know. I'll see you all in the next story.